Hi, I'm Suze Shaner with Sage Leadership Strategies, and I'm your host today of Community Forum. And I have the great pleasure to have back for the third time Luchina Fisher, and I'm going to give you a brief blurb on her bio. Luchina is an award-winning director, writer, and filmmaker whose work is at the intersection of race, gender, and identity. Her feature directorial debut, Mama Gloria, which she was on before and we spoke about, is a 2022 GLAAD Media Award nominee, won multiple festival jury awards, and was broadcast on PBS. We're also going to talk today about her latest short documentary, The Dads, about 5 fathers of trans kids on a weekend fishing trip. It premiered at SXSW. Another one, which we'll talk about, a short documentary, Team Dream, won the Audience Choice Award for Best Short Film at the Chicago International Film Festival and Best Documentary at the Pan-African and Tide Film Festivals and aired on BET. Her work, I could go on and on. Her work has been supported by Black Public Media, the Field Foundation, Sisters in Cinema, Brown Girl Doc Mafia, the Queen Collective, the Athena Film Festival's Work in Process program, Firelight Media, and the National Endowment for Humanities. Luchina also teaches documentary filmmaking at Yale University. Welcome back, Luchina.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so I Mama Gloria now 20, back. And in the last 3 years, you have been one busy lady with cranking out all these films. And what I want to talk to you today about is this notion of having a second and third act in life, whether, through your career or in life in general. And what I've noticed just in my half a dozen films of yours that I've seen, it seems like you have a thread of work that sometimes is related to your own biography or life or challenges of being Black in America in some way. Obviously, Mama Gloria demonstrated the intersection of being a trans Black woman. So I'm wondering, can you talk to us about, in terms of your own life, having a second and third act, and then also maybe choices you make with people you want to highlight in your films?
That's a great question. Yeah, definitely. I would say I'm in my third act. I've had many acts as a journalist, which is where I started my career. I did newspaper, magazine, radio, digital, books. I did every kind of medium you can imagine for storytelling, and then came to television when I came to the New York area. And I always made films on the side, but it really wasn't until 2018 when I started making Mama Gloria, and the film was released in 2020, that I finally put filmmaking at the center. And I have been going as a full-time filmmaker ever since. And I think what happens for many women in particular, when you get to that third act, is all the things that you have learned in life, you bring to that new stage that you're in. You know what you like, you know what you don't like, you're very clear about what you want to do, and you usually have some kind of purpose that you connect with your passion, and things start to really take off, which is what I've seen. I have 4 films on the circuit this year, so I've been quite busy traveling a lot to promote some of these films, and then I have 2 films in development. And then other projects that are in different stages.
So Luchina, let me ask you this. So when you said, I've always done film on the side, and clearly you're a storyteller, and storytelling's your passion in whatever medium, magazines, books, films, what enabled you or fueled you, or whatever words you want to use, to bring filmmaking front and center, and why now?
Yeah, I think that I've always had that love for visual storytelling since I was a little kid. That sitting and watching films would light me up like nothing else. And and everybody understands that thing that makes you excited and joyful, and it feels like it's inside, and you just have to express it. And for me, that urge to express myself through film was always there. Um, and I think I just never gave up on the possibility of it happening. Um, I think what brought it front and center was a combination of things. And I have heard before that luck is nothing more than skill, meaning opportunity. So I had been building all of these skills and making films on the side, giving myself the green light, um, and wondering when the industry might take notice. And that happened in 2020, not only with the release of Mama Gloria, but as you know, we had a racial reckoning in our country.
Yeah.
We had the pandemic. And I think there was plenty of opportunity for the documentary and film industry to look at itself and say, what are we missing? And who's telling these stories? Should we be telling these stories, or should the people who are reflected in these stories be behind the camera? And that was when I started getting calls from the industry.
So really what I'm hearing you say is you've been plugging along all along, continuing to hone your craft, and it was always a passion of yours. And some of it came from the outside in terms of people giving recognition and saying, hey, wanting to see more of you, because I can see the shift in you, like when we talk about right livelihood, like bringing more life in terms of how you make your living. I can see that in terms of you, just your vitality and really loving what you're doing. So how and where do you get your ideas for your films? And then we can talk about how you actually fund it. But like, what's the genesis of an idea that really lights you up inside?
Yeah, with film, it really does have to light you up. Like you have to know that you're willing to go wherever this subject takes you, wherever this story takes you, and that you're going to tell it no matter what, because you will hit obstacles in filmmaking. That's just part of the process. So I like to say that a lot of my stories find me. Um, Usually, I have some connection to them. Whether in Mama Gloria's case, it's the trans community. I'm the parent of a trans child. That's important to me, to love and advocate for my child. And, here was Gloria, loving and advocating for her chosen children, and also was loved by her family. So that was a story that I wanted to tell. With Anne and Madeline and Team Dream, they are coached by a good friend of mine I've known 30 plus years. So that film is as much about finding passion and purpose in your third act, as it is community and friendship. And so, that's driven by my friendship with their coach, Derek Milligan. So, a lot of the films are really stories that I want to see, stories that are not being told. And so why not be the one who makes them?
Well, that's definitely what I noticed about your films in terms of having strong exploration of strong overtones of emotional content where people triumph over whatever their challenges are, as well as a strong component of the relationships of the people involved in the film. So like, for example, let's talk about the dads. Like, how did you get that idea? Did you contact David Shepard? I mean, so for folks who don't know, that this is a story about really dads who have transgender children bonding, and David Shepard's son, who was gay, was killed. And so they're on a camping trip. So can you say a little bit more about how that story came to be and your experience with portraying this incredibly moving bonding experience of these men who are now responsible for raising transgender girls?
Mm-hmm. And boys.
Boys.
So yeah, it's Dennis Shepard, who is the father of Matthew Shepard, who was, killed in a horrific homophobic hate crime in the late 90s in Wyoming. And, since then, of course, the Shepards have been champions of the hate crime legislation laws that we have today. And they continue to advocate for LGBTQ children and families. And they have come together with this new generation of fathers who also are advocating for their kids. In many cases, they're trans children, which most people know the trans community is very much at the focus of so much anti-trans and anti-LGBTQ legislation across the country. So I know these dads through my work for the Parents for Transgender Equality Council for the Human Rights Campaign. And I had overheard some of them talking about, oh, let's go hunting, let's go hiking or fishing, and, let's just take a weekend and, wouldn't that be, we're going to go to Texas or, Wyoming or Oklahoma, and wouldn't that be ironic, that we, be in these spaces. And I was overhearing them and thought, that's quite interesting. That.
So you invited, and by the way, thank you for correcting me on Dennis. So you invited yourself along on the trip.
I did. With some cameras.
Yeah, you and some cameras. I noticed, I thought it was so real ironic. It was that broken bow. I thought, isn't that interesting? It happened, the name of the place where they were camping. So you kind of invited yourself along, and they were having this bonding experience. And what did they say when you first pitched this idea to them? Like, yeah, I want to join you. And by the way, I'm going to bring cameras with me.
They love the idea. I think, they've been looking for ways to connect with other fathers. Obviously fathers of LGBTQ kids, but fathers in general. Because if they can talk to the dads about, as Wayne Maines says in the film, what are you afraid of?
Yeah. Maybe
we can get to the heart of this madness that we're in right now. Like, the trans population is a very small percentage of our country. So why this outsize crazy response?
Yeah.
It does not make any sense, except that, they are an easy target in some ways.
Well, interesting for the fathers to explore on something traditionally very masculine, like a fishing or camping trip, and really to bond and talk about something so personal and so deep, and expressing their emotions, which, traditionally, historically speaking, men don't do enough of that. So what a healing thing. I mean, I was struck by some of the fathers' comments, like one of the fathers said that his child said, for Christmas next year, I just want Santa to turn me into a girl. And some of them, and another one who lost his wife died. And not only is he raising the other children, but this trans child, and being a parent's hard enough, let alone a single parent, let alone with multiple children and a trans child. So some of them said that this group saved their lives. I mean, what a what a service to each other to help them understand, express, and navigate this space.
Absolutely. And I think, that's one of the messages that, dads need to talk to each other. Like, it's okay to be vulnerable and talk about difficult subjects, to give each other permission to do that. And perhaps, there can be a shift, but we need that. We need to have dads be more on the front lines, but also find a brotherhood with each other, not just around sports, but around the issues that are at the heart of their lives. And every person has struggles, including fathers. And so this film, I hope, gives those dads permission to acknowledge that and talk about it.
It's a powerful film. Like you said, not only for these dads navigating the transgender, being a parent of a transgender child, but also, men in general, in terms of getting support and expressing their own struggles with other men. How do you balance the artistry, because you do have a lot of artistry of your themes, with creating the cogent narrative? Like, one of the things that struck me, for example, about the dad's film is the up close when they're in their conversations or out in the beautiful scenery with nature. So as a filmmaker, how do you go about thinking about that balance?
Well, I think when you understand kind of what the story is and who the people are that you're collaborating with, you see the visuals that that you need to express the truth of the experience. For me, I did like that juxtaposition between these dads in this natural kind of, as you said, traditionally masculine setting, talking about very tender and vulnerable feelings around raising their children. And so I wanted that juxtaposition. And so, we crafted some of that, obviously, with having them split wood or go out into the woods. But we also just let them have their conversation and followed where that led.
Yeah, yeah. And we have a comment from Mariko who says, dads are so isolated in this process. And it's true. So even just showing this, I mean, in general, dads in general, but specifically with this topic, especially since, as you said, there's so much negative energy and charge around this in our country.
Yes. Yeah. So the dads, it premiered, actually in March at South by Southwest, which is an incredible festival in Texas. And I just felt like that was the perfect place for the film.
What a state to premiere it in.
Exactly, right? And it's on the circuit currently, but it will be coming to a larger platform for wide distribution very soon. So please look out for that.
Okay, yeah, because I think there's a lot of people that probably want to see that. I want to hit on also your other film, Team Dream, and this is a very inspirational one about two older women, 76 and 82, who get really into swimming and go to the Olympics. I mean, this is really inspirational about longevity and vitality, and continuing to have that third or fourth act, as well as a story about their relationship and supporting each other.
Yeah. Anne and Madeline are incredible, inspiring women, and they both had successful careers and lives before they came to competitive swimming. And that is so much of what I love, that they understood that you got to have something that still drives you, that you still feel passionate about at every stage of your life. And the key to vitality as you grow older is being in community. Too often seniors are in isolation. So they show that through the way they cheer for each other. They are there for each other, win or lose during their races. And they'll be competing again this year at the National Senior Games in July in Pittsburgh. So this is not just for the film. They do this all the time.
Yeah, I mean, this was so inspirational. Well, all the research says that once you get beyond just basic lifestyle, like eating, sleeping, exercising, at the end of the day, it is about relationships and being in community. That is what fosters and feeds longevity. I mean, it's doing all the hygiene factors, but also these women are really exerting themselves majorly physically.
Yes, they are. I mean, it reminds me when Anne is pumping iron.
Yeah.
I am reminded of RBG. Do you remember that scene where she's doing those push-ups?
Yeah.
I know. I'm like, what am I doing? I feel like I'm, slacking. I'm slacking.
It's funny. It's funny because I mean, I pump iron, I go to the gym, but when I saw her, I was like, wow, she puts me to shame. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So I want to hit on one other film that's just come out last week, and that's Locked Out. And so I haven't seen it yet. I just saw the trailer, but it was a shocker to me when you mentioned the statistics around that redlining is worse now than in 1960. Can you share for our viewers what redlining is and how you came up with this incredible film storyline?
Right. So Locked Out is a film that came to me, as in the production company reached out and asked me to co-direct the film. And they had found this story of modern day redlining continuing in Detroit. Redlining, for those who don't know, was really codified by the federal government when it determined what areas of our country were good and safe for investment, and those that weren't. And the ones that weren't were all colored in red on maps. And those were inevitably Black neighborhoods, Black communities. So they could not get mortgages backed by the federal government, which meant they were going to predators often, or, these, mom and pop shops that had less than, honorable ethics. And so that kind of predatory lending, unfortunately, is continuing today, because in some of these neighborhoods, the banks will not loan them money for under 100,000. Some of these houses are not valued as high, and so they can't get a traditional mortgage, and they're resorting to predatory lending. So what the film does so well, I think, is it shows the Black women who are fighting back. Yeah. We go on this journey with them. See how they become empowered by their own situations and are fighting for housing justice. So that made me feel good that we're not only showing the problem, but we're showing the path to a solution. Yeah. And that film is on the circuit now. We next go to the American Black Film Festival, which is in Miami in June. And hopefully that'll be coming to wider distribution soon.
Well, I just saw the trailer, and even the trailer itself was heart-wrenching and heart-wrenching in terms of what they're dealing with in some of these homes falling apart, and also inspiring at the same time in terms of fighting back. So you touch on so many inspirational stories. What is your vision for where you want your work to go, and powerful stories that need to be told? Like, do you have a docket of all these? Like how do you typically work? You said this one you were asked to create it, but is it a combination of push pull? Some you have that you want to reach out, and some people that are pulling you into things. Like what's your vision for the future for your work?
Sure. It's a combination of things. And Team Dream, for instance, was with the Queen Collective, which was started by Queen Latifah and Procter and Gamble. And they've been wonderful partners along with Tribeca Studios in helping us, giving us the money to make these films, but also, bringing us to the NAACP Awards in February. And you can catch Team Dream now on BET. You can stream it there. Mama Gloria's on PBS. So I do like having my films available for people to see. Some of them have been in theaters, and I think, it really depends on the project, kind of what is the best way for the film to be seen. But ultimately, I just want these stories to be out in the world. Sometimes that means partnering with folks. Sometimes it means going independently and raising the money myself. Yeah. I just won an award from Black Public Media's Pitch Black Forum, which was $150,000 to go toward a new film that I've been developing on Black queer representation in music.
Well, you're sorry to interrupt you. We only have 30 seconds. It goes so fast. I will have you on again, especially as you continue to produce and put out there these incredible works of art in the world around messages that people really need to hear. So if anyone had any questions or wanted to reach out to you about anything we talked about today, how might they reach you?
Oh, find me on social media, Luchina Fisher. Or you can go to my website, luchinafisher.com. I'd love to hear from people.
Okay, Luchina, thank you again for coming on. Again, this story is to be continued.
Always.
Until next time, I'm Suze Shaner with Community Forum.